Hello, everybody. It is the Walkthrough Game Day Show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. That is Eugene, Napoleon, the legendary Mountaineer running back himself, and I am Schuyler Callihan here for Mountaineers Now on Fan Nation /Sports Illustrated. We're here to break down West Virginia and Baylor, and we've got a whole lot of stuff to get to. We're going to talk around the Big 12 as we always do. It's kind of our new segment here. We'll look around at some scores from last week, along with some Big 12 championship scenarios. And we're going to talk a little bit about the future in Morgantown and not Neil Brown this time. It feels like we've been talking about that all season long. But we're going to talk about how the future looks bright for West Virginia surrounding some young players. And we'll get into our preview and our picks as we always do to wrap up the show. So, Gene, West Virginia, Baylor. West Virginia's won 5 of the last 7. They're 1-4 down in Waco. But we'll get to that here in just a second. I'm getting off track here. Let's go take a look here around the Big 12 Conference and some of the scores that happened last week in the conference. So West Virginia obviously winning 42-21. We're not going to show that one. But in case you didn't know the other scores around the league, this is for you. Oklahoma 31-24 over BYU. That was a 10 a.m. kick. You kind of felt like that could be a weird game with how early that game was. But Dylan Gabriel got injured. He came back, finished the game for the Sooners. They ended up surviving, so they keep their Big 12 hopes alive. TCU beats Baylor 42-17. Oklahoma State over Houston 43-30. Texas Tech over UCF 24-23. Kansas State, and this is a big one for me in the pickems, by the way, but Kansas State defeats Kansas 31-27 in the Sunflower Showdown, and then Texas over Iowa State 26-16. So here is the Big 12 scenarios, Gene, and I was going to try and remember this off the top of my head, but I said, I'm not doing that. It's just too complicated. So I'm just going to read this off of my phone here. So Texas plays Texas Tech on Friday, on Black Friday. The result of that game will kind of dictate what scenarios are still alive for Saturday's games. So, per the Big 12 Conference, if Texas beats Texas Tech, they clinch a berth. That means these scenarios are live on Saturday. If Oklahoma State defeats BYU, that's it. It's Texas, Oklahoma State. Nothing else matters. If Oklahoma defeats TCU on Friday, and that win is followed by a win, by a Texas win and an Oklahoma State loss, the Sooners clinch a berth to the championship game. So Oklahoma needs a win, and they need a win by Texas and a loss from Oklahoma State. For Kansas State, they need to defeat Iowa State following a Texas win, and they need a loss by Oklahoma and a loss by Oklahoma State. So they need the most help in that scenario. Right. Flipping it over to the other side, if Texas Tech defeats Texas, Texas can still clinch a berth to the championship if one of the two-loss teams, say that 5 times, one of the 3 two-loss teams, Kansas State, Oklahoma, or Oklahoma State, lose on Friday and or Saturday. Texas and the remaining winning team of those 3 will qualify for the championship. And then lastly, if Texas loses to Texas Tech and 2 or 3 two-loss teams win against Kansas State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State on Friday and or Saturday, following along here, there will be 3 or 4 teams tied for both championship berths. Multiple scenarios exist in this circumstance, contingent on which teams remain in the tiebreaker pool. So if it gets down to that, it's a bunch of tiebreaker madness. Right. Let's just keep it simple. Oklahoma State, Texas win. We don't have to worry about anything else. So it'd be Texas and Oklahoma State. My preseason pick of Kansas State is still alive, but it's crazy, Gene, just to think all these different scenarios coming down to the wire here in the final week just shows how much parity there is in this league.
Which is a beautiful thing. I mean, that's what we always talk about. That's what you want. And we finally gotten to a place where that's exactly what you have, is parity from top to bottom, which is really cool. But I want to say this, my friend. For all of those people who said right from the day one that WVU would end up at the bottom of the conference. And the first show we did, if memory serves me correct, I said West Virginia would either be 9-3 or 8-4.
I
And
think you did,
interestingly
yeah.
enough, it looks like we have the potential to be 8-4.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, Baylor's a struggling team. West Virginia's going to be favored by a touchdown, maybe more, by the time that game comes around on Saturday. So everything's setting up as if it looks like West Virginia's going to get to 8, possibly 9 if you win the bowl game.
Right.
So that kind of spills into the bright future thing. But for the Big 12, since this kind of we're down to the final week here, is there any team that surprised you, good or bad, this season in the league?
So I'm going to say I like the direction of where Kansas is continually, steadily trending in this conference. I've always had a healthy respect for Kansas State, to be honest with you, because I've always viewed them as a really, really solid program. They get the type of recruits to continue the uphill swing, I should say, of where their program is going. I've always liked their program. So Kansas State, I can see why in your head, they were one of your favorites to make it to the conference championship. I am surprised. I don't know why I'm saying this, but I am surprised. All of the new entries into this conference, I'm surprised that they're finishing where they are within the conference, at the bottom rung of the conference.
Yeah.
For some reason, that surprises me. I didn't think BYU would struggle this mightily. I knew Houston would struggle. I knew Cincinnati would struggle a little bit.
I thought UCF would do a little bit better than their 5 and 6 through 11 games. I don't know. With that offense, it felt like they were a little bit better.
I felt like because they're inconsistent, and I felt like with them, the depth would be a problem. The same as with Houston, the depth I knew would be a problem, but I didn't expect that from BYU, and I didn't expect that wholeheartedly from Cincinnati. For some reason, I kind of felt like depth-wise, they had enough, and then if the ball bounces one way or the other, they'll win some games that they shouldn't be winning or whatever. But I really didn't think that all 4 teams would be struggling the way that they're struggling. But it goes to show you from top to bottom how good the conference really is. It goes to show you, I know most people say, oh, well, they're down this year. Well, it's kind of hard to say when you have how many teams that are bowl eligible in this conference? What, 6 or 7 teams are bowl eligible?
I think there's 8 now. So you got Texas, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Kansas State, West Virginia, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas. You have 8 teams that are bowl eligible. And you have, catch this, you have TCU, who's at 5 wins, BYU, in Central Florida. So you got 3 teams that if they win in their final week, they're getting to a bowl game.
That's crazy. Think about that. That's crazy. So, and I forgot about the other side. So I forgot about Iowa State. No disrespect to them, because that's another program that I have some respect. But it just goes to show you when you break it down like that, how strong the conference really. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a better conference than what people give it credit for. That's what I'm saying.
It is. And it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how the Big 12 is going to shape up after this year. When Texas and OU leave, you bring in some of those Pac-12 schools. How's their transition? Is it going to be pretty seamless because they've been in Power 5 before? Does any of those not bottom 4, but the newbie schools this year, those 4 newcomers, are they going to take a step? Who's going to become, I don't want to say the next Texas Oklahoma, but who's going to fill in that spot in the top tier of the Big 12 conference? And to me, when you look at some of the biggest surprises, I mean, it's hard to not say West Virginia, right? I mean, everybody and their brother thought this was going to be one of the bottom teams in the league. They're picked 14th to begin the season.
No,
Except even I think Eugene Napoleon said, heck, if there was 15 teams, he'd put them 15th. But
no, oh, no, I didn't, sir. Oh no, I had this feeling, and we spoke about it prior to. I had a feeling that WVU could win 8 to 9 games.
You
I
did.
really did.
I'll give you credit for it. Yeah, and I know you're usually a little bit more optimistic than me, but you were on that. You were on that.
Yep.
And I
So
think
I'm glad to see it. So I hope the so-called experts after this week will come back and somewhat eat their words. Somewhat. I know they won't, but we'll help them with that. We'll help them with that.
well, look, I mean, if West Virginia takes care of business out in Waco, they're going to be 8-4 and 6-3 in Big 12 play. I understand Texas could get to the playoff, and that could, you know, make Steve Sarkisian look really good. And you could talk about the turnaround that Oklahoma's had. To me, if West Virginia wins this game, Neil Brown's the Big 12 Coach of the Year. There's no question about it because this was a team that you, the media, picked 14th.
Right.
I didn't pick a 14th, but a lot of people did, and they go 8-4. I don't care that Texas has all the talent in the world. The expectations are up here every year. They were picked to finish toward the top of the conference, so it's not like they did something unexpected. West Virginia, on the other hand, I mean, come on, 14th, dead last to potentially somewhere in the top 5 or 6 of the league.
I'm 100% on board with what you're saying, and I know there may be a few people who say, "Oh no," but how could you not? At least he would be in strong consideration and contention for it because you go from, again, the so-called experts saying you're going to finish dead last in the conference and you finish middle of the pack and get 8 wins. Come on now. Come on. You got to give credit where credit.
And I think the other team that we'll give credit to is Oklahoma State, again, just because of the start, really. And I've said it, you can call me out for it too. I said it back in the summer. I didn't think this team was going to be very good. I thought they were going to struggle to get to bowl eligibility. And it looked like I was going to be spot on after their start to the year. They get blown out by South Alabama. I mean, we've told this story 100 times, but it's just amazing to me. Once again, the coaching job that Mike Gundy did with this team feels like every year it's his best coaching job. I mean, it's insane how this guy just consistently finds ways to get his team to 8, 9, 10 wins. And here he is again. He wins this weekend. They're playing for the Big 12 championship. I mean, it's incredible.
That might be, he might be in contention.
And yeah,
to the year, because if you get them to a conference, to match up in a conference championship, when you looked at them early in the year, like you said, they struggled mightily in the beginning. That turnaround is serious.
It is.
Again, you have to give credit where credit's due. Mike Gundy and his staff they're doing a tremendous job, but that's him. That's just what they do.
And the only down or the only team that surprised me in a bad way, I would say, is probably this week's opponent, Baylor. I mean, 3 wins. I mean, there was a lot of people that thought highly of them. I thought they'd kind of be somewhere in the middle of the pack when this all shook out. But I mean, Blake Shapen, he's been banged up. He's doubtful for this week as well. But I mean, they've had a lot of young guys playing, and it just hasn't been their year. But for Dave Aranda to only win 3 games with that team, a couple of years removed from winning the Big 12 title, that's shocking, I would say.
Well, it goes to show you there's a lot that goes into that. And we know, from transfer portal to injuries, there's a lot that just goes into that. And it's hard to say because we're not in that locker room to see what's going on day to day.
Right.
But I will tell you this. For some odd reason, it surprises me that staff can go from vying for a conference championship a few short years ago to now everybody screaming that they want this man out, they want him fired, or whatever the case may be. Boy, does it. I'm going to tell you, that mindset, I just can't think that people would be that short-sighted.
He's a good coach, man. I mean,
he's a great coach. And get this, he's a tremendous recruiter. Baylor's not the easiest place to recruit.
No.
Let me be clear. They're not. It's not the easiest place to recruit. So if you get the players in there and you're a little bit more patient, I think the turnaround for them is in the near future. I don't think that this man deserves to lose his job because of this year. That's just my humble opinion.
No, I think you can fix this quickly because, and he admitted it during his press conference this week, that they just got to figure out the NIL situation. They got to be more aggressive in the portal.
Yep.
And look, West Virginia, it's at least as of right now, it's paying off their patience, with Neil Brown. And he's a guy that didn't have any success prior to this season. Dave Aranda won a Big 12 freaking championship, for crying out loud. So give the man some time to adjust. I think if I think you bring him back, and if next year it's the same thing and it's just continued regression, then okay, you maybe have an argument there. But as of right now, I think that would be a major mistake because it would just it would tear down everything that they built, even though it doesn't look like they built much right now. I mean, this is still a program, again, that won and was sitting at the top of the Big 12 just a couple of years ago. So they'll get it right. They'll get it figured out. But in terms of Neil Brown and this team, I mean, we just hit on it. 8 wins potentially, maybe even 9. But the thing to me, at least, Gene, that's really stands out about this season is the young core of players that have really emerged here in the last month of the season or so. You've got Rodney Gallagher, Traylon Ray, Jaheim White, and there's others, but we're just specifically talking on the offense here. Traylon Ray looks like a dude. If he gets bigger, which is expected, and he puts on that much needed muscle, he's going to be a dude. Rodney Gallagher, once he gets that full off season to actually learn how to run routes and use leverage, he's going to be a dude. Jaheim White, he's already a dude, isn't he, Gene?
Yes. He is something special, man. I love watching him tote that rock because he has the ability to take it the distance. I don't care where you are on the field. He is explosive as explosive can be. And man, I'm looking forward to him getting a full off season and feeling really comfortable about this offense and learning the nuances and different things he's going to learn during the because he seems to be the type of kid that is going to work. He's going to put the work in.
Yep.
And forget about it. I think the sky's the limit for that young man.
I think the sky's the limit for this team too. I mean, I've not been very optimistic in the last 5 years or so. Right. But again, you look at everything that could come back. Now, they're going to have to work through the NIL stuff. They're going to have to retain guys. But if you can keep the core of this group together, I mean, Garrett Green's not going anywhere. I mean, he loves this program. He does not seem like a kid that would dart to go anywhere else. It wouldn't make sense for him to anyway.
Right.
You get C.J. Donaldson to come back. You get some of those key pieces on the offensive line back. The defense returns just about everybody. Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, like those three kids I just mentioned, Ray, Gallagher, and White, they're all true freshmen, and they're helping in a big way winning football games now as kids. Imagine what they can be as they grow into young adults and can be counted on consistently.
What has to happen, and here's the mark again of a good head coach with great assistant with good assistant coaches around them. They have to figure out a way to keep that nucleus intact.
Yeah.
You have to figure that out. If, like you said, if they can do that, Schuyler, I'm gonna tell you, it will be really hard pressed to say that West Virginia won't be fighting for a championship next season. It'll be really hard pressed to say that they won't, because you're getting to see the development of these young pups right in front of your eyes right now. You get them together and they stay during the offseason and they work their tails off, like I know that they will. Anything is on the table and anything is possible next year, because they already have, they know they know what it tastes like now to be able to get into these games and compete. And they showed up in these games now. So imagine next year, man, the confidence should be through the roof.
To me, I think it would be a disappointment that, and I don't think it's that far-fetched of a opinion here, but if West Virginia doesn't get to a Big 12 championship game or doesn't sniff one, and like say it
Right.
comes down to the last week and for some reason some stupid tiebreaker keeps them out. But if they don't even sniff a Big 12 championship during these three guys, again, I know it's very early in their career, but you can just see the potential.
Sure.
If they don't sniff one in these three guys' career, when would Neil Brown ever get there?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Again, when you have a quarterback, when you have a dominant backfield, when you have a solid, good to solid offensive line, and you got a steady defense, there's no way that's a recipe for a championship pedigree on any level. And West Virginia has that coming back.
And you got
If
an
they keep it
experienced starting quarterback now.
right,
That's the big
if
difference.
you keep everybody, they finally have that. It'll be the first time in a long time that you have all the pieces that you could put together to build around. You have
Yep.
that. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. There will be no way in no scenario if all of the pieces come back that you will tell me within the next year or two that they won't be, fighting for a conference championship. No, there's just no way around that.
Last question before we hit our break here, because I know you love this kid and we talked to him multiple times before he landed in Morgantown. Jaheim White can
Mhm.
be the best West Virginia running back since blank.
Amos Zaraway.
Oh, oh, Amos. Okay, so you're talking maybe even better than Noel Devine and Steve Slayton.
I will say this because Amos was really different in between the tackles and
Yeah,
in open field, right? Zaraway had something just a little bit different. Now, you're talking about styles, like boxing. Styles make fights, right?
yeah.
You can't compare, to me, um, Noel Devine was in a class by himself.
He's so unique. I mean,
Because of his style in the class by himself. So if you're keeping it relative to running styles or whatever, even Steve Slayton to a certain extent was in a class by himself because Steve Slayton, in my opinion, was a slasher. You know what I mean? So it's interesting when I watch, he reminds me, and again, White reminds me a little bit, of Zaraway. Um, he gets in between those tackles and he's not a big back, and you lose him between the tackles. And next thing you know, this guy is in the secondary.
yeah.
So I think he has a chance to be, and again, this is crazy. The kid could be a 5,000-yard rusher at West Virginia, man.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's insane to
I
think. And
mean,
again, they've committed to this new identity of running the football, and it doesn't seem like they're going to go away from it. So if you have the big boys up front to pave the way, Jaheim doesn't need all that much help in the first place.
peep this. Could you imagine? Okay, check this out. God willing, he's a true freshman, right? So a 1,500-yard season next year as a sophomore, just hypothetically. Another 1,500-yard season as a junior. That's 3 bills right there, right?
Plus what he
Now,
got this
plus
year.
what he got right now, and he still has a year to redshirt if due to injury or whatever the case may be. You got an extra year in there somewhere. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, I can see this kid. All right, realistically, 4,000 yards. Realistically,
that's crazy to think.
I can
My
see that.
goodness.
I mean,
I
in
mean,
his career, I can actually see that because he's such a breakaway runner. That kid in between the 20 to the 20. Come on, man. Now,
and then
one
you and
carry,
yeah, I
one
mean, and
carry
he's
is going to
gone.
get 60, 70 yards. Yeah, he's that type of back. So he's not one of them, I'm going to fall 5 yards in a cloud of dust type backs. That's what I mean. He has explosiveness and things that you can't teach.
Yeah.
Instinctive, very instinctive. I love it. I love watching that
And
kid run.
you know what the good thing about all this talk and hype around Jaheim is? Everyone keeps forgetting about CJ Donaldson, who's the starting running back of this dang team, and he's a load himself, but in a much
Yep.
different way. So, I mean, and Gene,
That's the
I
one.
hate to, I
That's the
hate to,
1-2 punch.
yeah,
That's crazy right now. That's the 1-2 punch, man.
I hate to bring up these type of comparisons, but like, you really can't compare this 1-2 punch at running back and quarterback all together. Those three guys, Garrett Green, CJ Donaldson, and Jaheim White. When's the last time they've had three really good players at those two spots and a mobile quarterback? I mean, you're probably talking Pat
Now,
White, Steve Slayton, Noel Devine, right?
now look here. Now, okay. There's a lot of okay because in each era, you got to remember, even before the Pat White, Steve Slayton, Noel Devine era, the quarterback and backs prior to that were very, very good. And then the backs and quarterback prior to that was also very, very good. And then my years was very, very good.
Yep.
So, which I love it when you think back about that's the greatness of WVU. When you think about each era, each 3 to 4 year era, if you look it up, and you had a quarterback that was decent, you had backs that were also decent. Mark Bulger years, those were good backs, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you stop to think about that. So obviously, Major Harris with A.B. Brown, myself, Andre Johnson. Just
But
talk about
since Pat, Steve, and Noel, I don't think there's been anything close to this.
Well, now
because Gino didn't have a running back.
You got Coburn. Those years. Think about now.
Yeah, but I'm talking like after Pat, Steve, and Noel left. So from them on, not before. If that makes sense.
Before. Okay. Yeah. That makes better sense. No, you're 100% correct. No, you're right. Now, this is the new crop. Yeah, I would agree. This definitely is the new crop because I'm thinking. Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, because Gino didn't have a run game. You're talking about the Will Greer years, and obviously they were aerated out. So I mean, there's really not.
No, I mean, you talk about the years when you had to put Tavon back there and let him do his thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're right. This particular group has a chance to be very, very special and historic. And I'm thinking that they can do that. And hopefully, like we're talking about right now, if you can keep them all there, boy, this could be really special. The next 1 to 2, actually the next 3 years.
Yeah, it certainly can. So fans, let us know your thoughts in the comment section if you're watching here on YouTube, what you think about this young core of Traylon Ray, Ronnie Gallagher, Jaheim White, all those other guys. What should be the expectation next year for this team, win total wise? Let us know in the comment section. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to break down and dive all into this Bears-Mountaineers matchup. Last week, it was the poor Bearcats. And this week, it's the poor Bears. So
absolutely,
the Bears are literally limping into this game. They're 3-8 on the year. Nothing really to play for than to send their seniors out with a victory. So it's the season finale. Not of this show. We'll have one for the bowl game, but when we come back, we'll dive into that matchup. But first, a word from Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. Do you have dirty air ducts? Is your dryer vent plugged up? Well, odds are you probably don't know the answer to that question. Fortunately for you, we know a guy. Give Justin at Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning a call at 304-639-3395 for your free home evaluation. That's 304-639-3395. Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. It's the Bears, it's the Mountaineers here in game number 12 to wrap up the regular season. Can't believe it's already here. It always happens like this, but West Virginia wrapping things up out in Waco before bowl season comes around. West Virginia taking a look here at the series. They are 1-6, Eugene, on the road. Or excuse me, 1-4. I'm thinking about Baylor's home record, by the way. 1-4 in Waco. The only win that West Virginia has at Baylor came in 2017. West Virginia was up 38-13. This was Will Greer's first year. If you remember, they got up to that huge lead at half. Looked like they were going to blow the doors off the Bears, and then they came storming back. Baylor outscored West Virginia 23-0 in that second half. And if memory serves me right, I think Baylor was going for a 2-point conversion to tie the game up and didn't get it. And I think it may have been one of the Stills brothers that kind of messed that thing up. I can't really remember 100%, but I think that's how that thing played out. But West Virginia's won 5 of the last 7 meetings. Again, they're 1-4 in Waco. But the good news is Baylor is 1-6 at their own stadium this year, which is even crazier to think. So, Gene, just before we dive into the X's and O's of this thing, just your initial thoughts on the Baylor Bears this year and their down season.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, and I always say this. This is why they give other teams scholarships as well. So you never know. Any given Saturday night, any given Saturday, whatever. It'll be interesting. And like we said earlier, we are surprised at where Baylor is right now. They're down, but I don't think they're gonna just lay down at home. They want to send the seniors off right. They want to get them their last victory or whatever. And let me say this: I don't particularly think they care, for us. I don't
Probably not.
You know what I mean? So it's not like you're going in that, yeah, we're going in ready. They're limping, but boy, have you ever seen a bear that's hurt?
Yeah, last week actually. Or I don't. Is a bear to bear cat the same thing? I don't even know what a bear cat is. Like, is that a thing?
They didn't either.
I mean, I think is it a species of bear? I mean, I may sound stupid right now, but like, I have no idea.
You don't sound stupid, but I'm gonna tell you this: I'm looking forward to and I know it's gonna sound crazy because they're not having a great year, especially at home.
Yeah.
I'm really looking for Baylor to give us their best shot.
Why wouldn't you? This is technically their bowl game, right? They have nothing to play after this.
No, absolutely. So I want them to give us their best shot, and I think that they will. I don't think they're going to lay down. I really don't.
That's something to keep in mind here is that since this is their last game, they don't have to hide anything, right? They can throw the kitchen sink at West Virginia. They could go for it on 4th down every time they get the 4th down if they really wanted to. It doesn't really matter because it's not going to affect them in the standings. It's not going to affect their bowl positioning. So they can be as aggressive as they want, and I expect them to be, especially for a team that's hunting a win to end the year. So diving into this thing, we'll go Baylor offense, West Virginia defense first, and this is a huge, huge development that we've kind of became aware of over the last 24 hours or so, and that is that starting quarterback Blake Shapen is doubtful to play in this game, and he has been banged up all season long. He's been a tough kid. He's had a really good season one. He's been healthy. I think he's kind of the straw that mixes the drink for them. But so that's going to be a tough loss for them. And if he does not play, they're going to turn to Sawyer Robertson, who does have some experience filling in for Shapen this year, completing 50% of his passes, a touchdown and 4 picks. Typically, Eugene, this is a team that likes to put the ball in the air and has had success throwing the ball. But I think also part of that too is they're finding themselves behind in these games, and they have no choice but to throw the ball. So I think Baylor in this one, especially if Robertson plays, they're going to want to get those 2 running backs involved. Dominic Richardson, Dawson Pendergrass. Big kids at running back, 6'2", 219, 6'1", 206, big, thick backs that can take a beating. They want to minimize, I would imagine, as much of this game plan as possible for Sawyer Robertson in the passing game. They don't want him thinking too much. They want him to kind of play freely and kind of a 1-2 read and go kind of a thing. I don't know that they really want to risk putting the ball in the air, especially when you got maybe one of the best cornerbacks in the country, Beanie Bishop, on the other side.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%. And I also think outside of the pure run game, the extension of that is screens.
Yeah,
it would not surprise me
if
I see multiple different types of screens. Because, no, I agree with you. I'm not going to put my quarterbacks in harm's way when I know you got a ball hawk like Beanie Bishop in the back end. I'm not going to do that. Or you run the risk of the sacks because the
which has
offensive
been a
line,
major problem for Baylor.
major problem for Baylor up front. You know what I mean? So no, I'm going to extend this thing by different multiple types of screens. I'm going to try to get the running game going, minimize him having to throw the ball down the field anything more than 20, 25 yards, and see where that lies. I'm not saying that's going to be a successful game plan, but that would be one. That would be one that I will be considering.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at the running backs between Richardson, Pendergrass, and even throw Richard Reese in there. I mean, they're averaging like 4 or so yards a carry. It's not that they can't run the football. It's they're getting so far behind in these games because of their defense. When you're down 2 or 3 scores in the second half, you can't run the ball.
You
I
got
mean,
to
if you
throw it.
are, you're throwing up the white flag and saying just let this game end. So I mean, I think they can run the ball. They will run the ball, especially with Robertson potentially and a quarterback. They're also a team, Gene, that is towards the top of the Big 12. This has kind of become a key metric that we like to look at because they've been so dominant in West Virginia, and that's time of possession. Baylor likes to hold on to the football too, even though they like to pass it. So now that they're going to probably see the needle move a little bit more towards the run game, I expect they're going to play kind of that ball control type of game too. And again, going back to throwing the kitchen sink at West Virginia, being aggressive. Don't be surprised if it's 4th and 4 from their own 35 if they go for it. And if they get it, guess what? The clock keeps running. They're holding on to the football. I think that's a very key point for them. Is to get some success on the ground early in this game. West Virginia's actually done a really good job, particularly last week. Corey
Yeah.
Kiner, man, I'm telling you, he is one of the better running backs in Big 12. No one really talks about it. Cincinnati, they held him in check for 3 quarters. They held that Cincinnati rushing attack in check for 3 quarters. And then when they got into that little bit of a, I know you don't like to call it garbage time, but they got to the game was out of hand and they threw some reserves in. It started to skew the numbers a little bit. But I really like what West Virginia's run defense did last week. But this is a premier opportunity for that front seven of West Virginia to really get after the quarterback because, again, we talked about it. Baylor has given up 31 sacks this year. That's dead last in the Big 12 conference. Their quarterback, no wonder why Blake Shapen's out again. I mean, this kid has just been beaten and thrown around week after week. Tough deal for Sawyer Robertson here to come into.
Yeah, well, he's been beat like a pinata. So it's unfortunate. He's been hit that many times, and you hate to say that because that means you are struggling up front. So I really like our chances, to get some hits on the quarterback and get him to the ground. The funny thing about Baylor and where they are right now, because they have nothing to lose, those games are kind of the hardest games to go into. Because it would not surprise me anything less than 2 to 3 yards, 4th and 2, and even maybe 4th and 3, 4th and 1 for sure. It wouldn't surprise me if they go for it 60, 70% of the time because you want to convert those fourth down into first downs because that way you're keeping West Virginia's offense off the field.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to think about on their side. More or less for West Virginia, we're going to come in chomping at the bit because, not to be disrespectful, but this is a real thing. You look at this, and this is stat day.
It could be.
Stat day. This could potentially be that type of game. So I know we're ready to get to Waco and get it on. Take the gloves off, ring the bell, let's get it on.
And the three receivers that are going to be the most prolific in their game. Monterey Baldwin's a name everyone pretty much knows. Speedy kid, really kind of short and compact, but man, he's got a lot of speed and he can make you pay. He's their leading receiver, and then they got the tight end involved here. Gene, I know that's kind of more back in your day. You like the tight ends getting involved here too, but Drake Dobney, 31 catches, 5 touchdowns. He's averaging over 17 yards a catch. So that means when they're throwing in the football, it's probably a lot of those passes up through the seam, and he's getting a lot of yards after the catch. So got to watch him over the middle of the field. And then Ketron Jackson Jr., 25 catches, 401 yards. He's their big, long receiver that they can take those home run shots with, 6'3", 200+ pounds. And they've got like 4 or 5 other guys, Gene, that they've given the ball to 10 or 15 times through the year. So they're I wouldn't say they're necessarily deep at receiver. They just play a ton of guys, but those are the three to highlight. So flipping over to the other side, West Virginia offense, Baylor defense here. And boy, Baylor's defense, man, it has been struggle bus all year long, which is kind of surprising under Dave Aranda, defensive minded coach. But the one thing that really kind of sticks out to me here, they're dead last in the Big 12 in terms of scoring defense. They're giving up 33 points a game.
Right.
You would think they're a terrible red zone defense, right? That they're just giving up defense or touchdowns 95% rate. Nope, not the case. This is actually the fourth best defense in the red zone in the Big 12. So what's that mean? A lot of explosive touchdowns, a lot of passes that are going 40, 50 yards, big run plays, more of which are probably coming on the ground. And this is good news for West Virginia because they have not fit the run all well at all this year. They've given up 101 points in the last 2 weeks to Kansas State and TCU. So if you're CJ Donaldson, if you're Jaheim White, if you're Garrett Green, you're just licking your chops when you look at this matchup.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. This can potentially be stat day. Yeah. So, and I think with that being said, we control again the line of scrimmage, control the the ground game, control the clock, and all these other things. It may not be the type of day that Garrett Green is going to want throwing the ball, but I think it will be that type of day on the ground.
Absolutely.
I really do. I think there'll be explosive plays, big gaping holes to dance through. You know what I mean, for our backs. And it could be potentially a long day for them poor Bears.
And I mean, hey, let's be honest here. West Virginia just ran for 424 yards against what we were talking about as the key matchup in that game with Cincinnati. A very good defensive line, very good defensive front that has been very good against the run all year. We talked about that Zach Frazier versus Dante Corleone matchup, and Zach Frazier whipped him up and down the field all day long. So if they can do that against Cincinnati, what do you think they can do against this defensive front, who has been struggling against this all year long? So
absolutely. It's about being consistent. It's about playing.
Yeah, and when you look at what they want to do, Matt Aranda talked about, Matt Rule, Dave Aranda, combining the two here. But Dave Aranda talked about it. For them to have a chance in this game, they can't allow the Jaheim Whites of the world and even Rodney Gallagher's on those jet sweeps. They can't let them get sideline to sideline and beat them on the perimeter. They've got to be able to contain that and funnel everything inside to their main guy, which is Matt Jones. Matt Jones, who? But 76 tackles, 4 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups. I mean, this is literally their defense, right? I mean, it's this kid in the middle, Matt Jones, their senior. You know he's going to be ready to come out and play well in his last game as a Baylor Bear. But you look at their stats, Gene, you can tell a good defense from a bad one just by simply looking at the tackles a lot of the times, right? Who's leading in their tackle in the tackle department? If it's the secondary, you're in deep, deep trouble. And that's the case here with Baylor.
Yeah, that's a problem. If you look back there and you see their safety is leading your defense in tackles, yeah, it's going to be a long day. And I don't care. It's going to be a long day. So I see this as being an explosive offensive day for our Mountaineers. And again, I'm very careful to say that without saying we just have to be consistent with what we do.
Yeah.
You can't go out here all willy-nilly. You got to be really consistent with what we do. The play calls have to be consistent. You have to have, and I'm sure they will, it has to be scripted right and really maximize every possession.
Yeah, and again here, just going back to the secondary, Caden Jenkins, he's their leading secondary guy, and he's a true freshman. 33 tackles, 3 interceptions, 3 PBUs. You got true freshmen out there going up against, some of these guys in the Big 12. You're gonna have a long season. So, Gene, I think the one thing I definitely want to ask before we move on here is, look, Baylor, again, we know they're all going to be throwing everything that they got at West Virginia. But if you're the Mountaineers, you're looking at this game like, man, this is just Baylor. It's a 3-win team. It's the end of the season. We just want to get to the bowl game. How do you avoid overlooking a team like Baylor. And I know Neil said, we have no reason to overlook anybody. And he's right. But
Absolutely.
again, this is 18 to 23-year-olds that we're talking about here. So how do you avoid overlooking a 3-win team that's won one game in their own place this year?
It's the mark of a good coach and a good coaching staff. And that's the discipline that you have to go into this game, understanding that. But it's not just about this game. That should be the temperament, and that should be the attitude from starting back in camp. That shouldn't even be a question. You take on the temperament of your head coach and of your staff. And it's the mark of a good ball club, and it's the mark of a good ball club that's well coached, none of that should even be a question. They should be looking at Baylor as if Baylor was freaking Oklahoma or Texas, to be honest with you. That's how serious in nature their mindset has to be. And this is a business trip.
It is.
Honestly, they should look at Baylor as if Baylor was freaking undefeated. That's how serious this game has to be. But that starts from the top down. That attitude actually starts in camp. Yeah, you don't get that during the season. That starts in camp.
And two, I think Neil made this point too. Like, the kids are out of school this week. So this is simulation essentially of what an NFL week would look like for you. If that's your dreams and aspirations, it's all football all the time. You've got to be able to pour all your focus into this. And if you're guys like Zach Frazier, Lee Koba, you're a senior, look, you only got 2 opportunities left. So you got to make the most of it to put as much good stuff on tape for those NFL scouts. And it's the same thing for the guys that are young. Even the 3 that we talked about earlier, you want to continue that momentum so that way you roll into the bowl game with a boatload of confidence. You're not questioning things. You go into the bowl game, you perform well there, and then you're off and running into 2024. So absolutely. West Virginia,
and that should be the mindset, and I believe it will be.
Yeah. So West Virginia Baylor, 7:00 on FS1, and for a moment here, we're going to pretend like it's 6:48. Eastern time on Saturday, as Eugene's going to get us ready for this one as we run out of the tunnel here, out of the pregame. Give us your fire me up speech, your last one of the regular season.
Let me tell you something. It's real simple. I'm actually going in the locker room, and before we do anything, my thing is this. Don't say a word. Don't say a word. I'm going to write on the board what the experts said that we're going to be this year. Here's what the experts said. They said that we're going to finish last in this conference. They said that there's going to be 13 other teams better than us. They said that I should be fired. This whole staff should be fired. We should be working at freaking Kroger's. That's what they might as well have said. So to my players, I'm asking you to do this. All I want you to do, the last game of the regular season before we go in the bowl, right? Before we go bowling, I don't need this. I don't need you chirping. I want your play, tonight's play, to send a message of what we're going to look like as we prepare for our bowl and going into 2024. I don't want no talking. I don't want no celebrating. I want total domination for 4 quarters. So as we leave this locker room in Waco, everybody, I want the trainers coming out like this. Because I don't want words. I want action. Let's go Mountaineers.
How can you not get pumped up for that, man? That's some good stuff. And it is all about finishing this week, right? You have another opportunity to prove them wrong. And that's one way you can look at it. If you think that you're worried about this team overlooking them, just think this is another opportunity to get another Big 12 win. If you win 6 out of your 9 Big 12 games, that really makes those guys that picked your 14th look like idiots, doesn't it? So
it does.
Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the favorite time of our show, and that is the weekly pick'ems here. As Eugene, I gotta say, my friend, I got a little hot streak going now. I'm 5-0 I went 5-0 last week. I gained a little ground on you. Thank you very much for parting ways on a couple of those picks. So I'm now 29-26 on the season. You're 32-23. I still need a little help. Again, we're gonna do a bowl show, so we're gonna have another week of this. to see who is the winner. And don't forget, put in your picks. You still got 2 more opportunities to go 5 for 5 in our weekly pick'ems. And if you do go 5 for 5, you get a Eugene Napoleon autographed picture. So definitely don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So let's go ahead and kick things off here with some G5 love, G. We're going back to the G5, and that's on Black Friday. UTSA, the Roadrunners, taking on the Tulane, good Lord, Tulane Green Wave at 3:30 on ABC. This is a really good matchup. I'm a huge Jeff Traylor fan. I'm a huge Frank Harris fan. I love UTSA. But for some reason, I'm going to go with Tulane here and Michael Pratt. I think they find a way to outscore UTSA in what should be a very interesting up and down affair.
UTSA. That's where I'm going.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Keep giving me opportunities to climb up.
I'm helping you out. That's where I'm going. I think they get it done. Now, they're at Tulane, correct?
Yes, at Tulane.
Oh, yeah. They're good. Nice little road win for them.
And it is rivalry week, so we could not feature the game, right, as they call it, and that is Ohio State at Michigan, and what is not only a Big Ten, a ticket to the Big Ten championship online here, but you can maybe even say it's an elimination game for the college football playoff as well. So Ohio State at Michigan, 12 o'clock on Fox. This is a true toss-up game for me, man. I'm going to go with Michigan. I think I'm going to go with the Sign Stealers, the Michigan Scandalers. I think they've got a little bit of motivation here. Even with Jim Harbaugh out, I think they're very motivated. I think that they are honestly the better team. You get this at home. They've won a couple against the Buckeyes here recently. I'm going to go with Michigan.
No, I'm with you. I'm spot on. I'm really not a Michigan fan per se, but all of the hype lines up. They're at home. This is a big one for them. And that's the thing about being motivated. So I'm with you. The motivation swings, to the Wolverines. So I'm going to go with Michigan, although I really don't want to.
Going down to the swamp, and we got Florida State at Florida, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Huge in-state rivalry here. And my goodness, if you didn't see it last week, Jordan Travis, just a very ugly injury that's going to knock him out for the rest of the season. You hate to see it. Just absolutely tough. Could hurt the Seminoles and their CFP hopes. But where am I going here? Am I going with the Noles? Am I going to go with the Gators? I'm going with...
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm going Florida State. I'm going Florida State. I know Jordan Travis is not playing this game, but when you look at this roster from top to bottom and the coaching, I'm taking Norvell over Billy Napier. Florida State finds a way to rally and keep their college football playoffs hope alive.
No doubt about it. And I was going to say the same exact thing. They got a lot to play for, man, at the end of the day. And also, they want to prove a point as well. Yeah. They got a good football team. No disrespect to the Gators, but they won't get it done. They won't be chomping on anything. No, even though it's in the swamp, it ain't gonna happen for them. Yeah, I'm going with Florida State.
North Carolina at NC State, 8 p.m. on ACC Network. And last week I went against the Tar Heels and I got it right. And I'm gonna do it again here, Gene. I hate to do it because I can't stand NC State. You know that. And maybe this is just more of a reverse psychology thing. I'm kind of into that, right? So I'm going to go with the Wolfpack. They've got a really good defense. Tony Gibson, obviously former WUDC, doing really good things over there with that defensive side of the ball. And look, Carolina has not played well here recently over the last month or so. And they're going to Raleigh. Tough place to play. This is NC State Super Bowl. I'm going to go with the Pack.
Dude, let me tell you something. As much as I like North Carolina, I'm never going against Gibby. Are you kidding me? NC State, baby. I mean, NC State. They're going to do their thing. The DB coach that's my guy as well down there. So, no, they'll be just fine. And North Carolina coming to them at home? Nah. That place going to be lit, as the kids say.
The game we're all here for, that is West Virginia at Baylor, 7 o'clock on FS1. West Virginia's won 5 of the last 7 against the Baylor Bears, but they are 1-4 in Waco. As we mentioned earlier, This isn't an opportunity for Baylor to get off or to end the season on the right note. This is an opportunity for West Virginia to make a statement, and that is to go 8-4 and 6-3 in a conference that everyone said you would finish dead last in. Here's Neil Brown, the head coach of the Mountaineers.
I tell our guys, if you want to be a pro, this is the week where you're kind of in training. There's no class in session. It's just kind of football, and I guess the secondary piece will be food. But it's all football. I'm not sure we need to be overlooking anybody. I think to me it's just about finishing. This is got a singular focus this week. Only game. There's not any school stuff to worry about, and they've really dominated us down there. Not just. I think 1-4 is a program down there, and we went down there in rules last year and had a chance to beat them, and they beat us right at the end of the game, and they had a really good team, and then they smoked us down there in 21. And so, we understand it's a tough place to play. You got to stay about an hour away, and so there's some things that we got to handle from a travel standpoint that are a little unique. But for me, it's just for us, we got to continue to play well. And that's what kind of is that Oklahoma game's in my crawl. Not that we lost, but we just didn't play very well. And so for me, it's about playing good football. And that's really what the push is this week, to go play good football.
Last regular season pick'em here for the West Virginia Mountaineers, Gene. I've gone against them. I've gone for them, and it's paid off for me, and it hasn't. It's kind of been of a mixed year for me picking this game, but this is exactly my same feelings as it was last week for Cincinnati. I think this is a very similar team to Cincinnati. Mountaineers roll, baby. They cover the spread. Whatever it is, it can get up to 10. I don't care. West Virginia, they take care of the Bears. They finished the year 8-4 with a chance to get that win number 9 in the bowl season.
I love the way you think. I really do. And finally, the Mountaineers has proven themselves to you. They can get it done. So all I'm going to say is, you already know I'm going with the Mountaineers, but I'm not going to say a word. Let the action speak Saturday night, man. Let the action speak. No words, just action.
Again, let us know your picks in the comment section on YouTube. You go 5 for 5. You get that man's autographed picture, and you'll have a chance to do it for the bowl show as well. So we thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode of the Walkthrough Game Day Show, presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort, and make sure you give us a like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. Give us a follow on X at the same channel, and we will see you guys here in a couple of days for the Mountaineers Now post-game show, as Eugene and I will recap the action between the Bears and the Mountaineers. Take care.